spark power, it will slightly extend it. So it becomes a situation where you want to go through and pick up more of those while you're killing enemies. I'll name one more that's a little bit different. My engagement result for this class, when you spark with that class, you will charm every enemy around you. So you have these little tendrils coming from all of your enemies, and they'll all start fighting each other. So it becomes this amazing moment where you have this army out, you pull both triggers, the enemies are fighting each other, your summons are fighting them, and then you have the ability to do this kind of mind shot, just back to back, doing a ton of damage, and really pepper those enemies. It's really useful if you feel overwhelmed. I can't count the number of times that we've been talking about an internal playtest. You're playing a mission like this with 3 players, where the enemy count goes up, the difficulty goes up, or you're playing on a higher difficulty mode, and it seems like you're done for. It's like you're not going to get there. You're totally screwed. Someone pops an ultimate ability and completely turns the tide of the battle. And it was great when we kind of came up with this idea, and it was even better once it was implemented. So pretty exciting.
Awesome. And we just finished that ordeal. We got a pretty good score, and you can see after it's done, you get to open up a chest. There's a nice little flourish, and we got a bunch of cool loot from it. Don't want to spoil too much on that, but you can see we got some card shards, and we can talk about that in a later stream. And if you are lucky enough to get into the closed alpha test, then you can experience that for yourself. So if you haven't already, definitely head over to our website, playmagiclegends.com, sign up for alpha. We're going to be sending out keys for that like right at the end of this stream. They're going to be going out later today. So you still have time to sign up if you haven't yet.
Yep. They've got their fingers hovering on the button. Grab it. Yeah. Shoot it out right after.
Sweet. So we finished that ordeal, which is sort of like a dungeon and instance, and now it teleports us back out to the overworld. So from here, we're just going to do a little bit of questing. I think this is a cool chance for us. Oh, we leveled up to level 4 too. So check this out. This is where we just were. We were at the Hedron Rush ordeal. This is where we ran from. Right here, Briarthorn Glade, and this is where our next quest is. Check out how big this map is. We ran from here to here, and this is how massive Tazim is. And this is just one of many planes that are going to be available at launch.
And if you pull that back even farther, that was just a part of one neighborhood. There are 3 neighborhoods in Tazim, and they're all themed a little bit differently because we're going to see it pretty soon. Spoiler, kind of the big bad through that area in Tazim are the merfolk. So you're kind of starting at these upper areas in the trees in Briarthorn Glade, and you're going to work your way down to the coast where the merfolk are. So you start in this very kind of traditional jungle feeling with the waterfalls and, hedrons everywhere, and you're going to work your way down to the coast, and you're going to see tide pools, and there's going to be a lot of really cool differences in the environments. And yeah, it's a huge map full of content to do with other people, right? This is a open social map as well.
And we're actually going to be seeing some of that pretty soon. We're going to be heading down into the second segment. So if you missed it earlier, or if you're just tuning in now, this is still sort of a tutorialized area, but we've passed like the actual instanced tutorial where you learn how to use your abilities and movement, and you start unlocking some of your spells. So now it actually kind of plopped us out into the overworld, and it said, here you go, have fun, do whatever you want, but we're still unlocking things as we go through. And so you see, we started off that ordeal with only 2 spell slots, and now, because we've leveled up and we're progressing through the story, we now have 4, and we have a bunch of other abilities that we haven't really shown off yet. So it'll be pretty cool to show those once we actually get to some combat.
Yeah, and so over that journey in Tazim, you're going to be building out your initial pulse deck, which you have to learn all your spells. And while we are tutorializing you through Tazim, it is a full region. You can come back and replay at full difficulty or higher difficulty modes. It's by no means kind of a cast-off region. So you also may have noticed it's a huge region. A lot of running around. If you want to just quest through here, you totally can. But earlier, before we hit Hedron Rush, Jeremy had a fast travel point. There are fast travel points throughout the map. You only have to find them and unlock them once. And once you do, you can find them and fast travel directly to them at any point when you're in this area. So if you want to pop back to Briarthorn Glade, change your costume, your buddy logging in, you go over here there. Or if you just want to bounce around, you're like, oh, I found a skirmish. Oh, here's a rare skirmish, and I saw it on the map. I just want to jump to the closest point and do that one instead of running around. That can be part of the play experience.
Speaking of skirmishes, actually, see this? Should we step in here? I think we have time.
I think we can make that work.
All right, cool.
So
let's check this out.
So yeah, you gotta walk in.
anybody else playing this?
I think there was someone else playing on the show.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought this was just for me. Okay, well that's
Just for you. Um, so this is Filter Lookers. So in this area, this is a major skirmish, which means there are 3 little trees in here, and there are Balov hiding in the trees. You want to clear those Balov out. So how you're doing it is you have to kind of pull aggro and get 3 of these Silt Lurkers into range. And when you do, the Balov comes out because you see like, oh, there's a free meal there, and you're going to take them out. So there are 3 in the area, in this tight little area, and then you clear the area. So you get some pretty cool rewards, and this is something that, Jared's doing this by himself, but he ran across that tester that was in your flank. They could have done it together. They could have just stayed in there and cleared this area out, and it would have scaled for them. So you can get people just like you're running around, like, oh, they're doing that skirmish, I gotta jump in and do that skirmish. So it makes for a very dynamic experience, but it's also really good rewards, right? So each of our types of content kind of focus on different rewards, even though you always get a little bit of everything. And it becomes a fun place to kind of quest, especially when you're looking for specific types of rewards. If you're looking for green spells, for example, questing around disease.
excellent. And so something else I don't think we've really touched on is how the classes themselves upgrade. So it's not just the spark power that you get, but because I think we hit level 4, now our basic combo, so I'm just like holding right trigger, our basic combo is improved. And now when I do the 1, 2, 3, 4 with the uppercut now shoots out like a rock, a spine, earthy spine.
A spike. So that's great. So we're going to talk about that. You saw that you kind of unlocked a little bit where you're, we got your spark meter, but you're also going to level up each of your primary, secondary, and utility abilities. And as Jared mentioned, your combo now has this like spike uppercut at the end. Another one that's great is your left bumper. You'll get a second jump, so you'll build up 2 charges, and you can leap back to back, which is amazing for this class. I love to kind of leap into a group of enemies, pop off some AoEs, maybe drop a creature to pull aggro, and then leap right out of it. So that's awesome. And then as you progress deeper, you're also going to be unlocking kind of passive abilities that really lean into the class. So for example, red is all about damage, chaos, and the Geomancer really specializes in casting damaging sorceries. So as you progress and unlock those passive abilities, a damage sorcery at the exact same level that's cast by the Geomancer will do more damage than a damage sorcery that is cast by a Sanctifier, even though the spells are the same level. The other side of that is a healing spell that's cast by a Sanctifier will heal more than the exact same spell at the exact same level that's cast by the Geomancer. So there's trade-offs where the higher you get in progression, the deeper you lean into what you're strong at. And then all of that culminates in a trait. And the trait, once it's unlocked, is something you can take to any class. So you have 3 trait slots. And so once you max out 3 classes, you fill those out. But once you've maxed out more classes than that, you have to choose which trait you want to have. They're all kind of interesting abilities. So the trait for the Geomancer is because you're in there, you're punching, and you're in the middle of the guys all the time. If you die in combat, you will immediately pop back up with 50% health. That takes, I think, 3 minutes to recharge, but that's something you could have access to on any other class once you've unlocked it, right? So it's a pretty cool feature. There's a lot to kind of level up and unlock, but the goal of these classes isn't that, oh, I rolled a Geomancer. If you want to play a Sanctifier, I better log out, create a new tune, and then play a Sanctifier. Your Planeswalker can play as any class. A class is just part of your loadout. So you've been playing, you've been collecting spells, you've been leveling up spells, you've completed the tutorial region and a couple of others. And so now, maybe I want to feel like playing a Sanctifier. So, you're halfway leveling on your Geomancer. Now you can play as Sanctifier. And the cool thing is your Sanctifier might be level 1, but you still have all the spells you've collected. They're all the same level because they're on the same layer. They're just part of the loadout. So it makes it very easy to play and level all of the classes that we have in the game, and then collect all of those traits. And then it gives you a little extra customizability for how you like to play. It's like, oh, I really like the healing and the range damage of my Sanctifier, but I want to run a blue-black deck because I feel like I like being at range and I like having those synergies in those spells. And you can definitely do that when you're playing. So finding the right class that plays into the deck style that you find most exciting is a really cool option that exists in the game.
Yep. And we've already announced the first 5 planeswalkers that are going to be available when we enter open beta. So you can check out our website, playmagiclegends.com. Be sure to sign up for the closed alpha as well while you're there, and you can read a little bit of details. Like, I know we've been showing a lot of Mind Mage and Geomancer, and I thought this would be a good stream for Geomancer just because it's really like in your face, it's brutal, punchy, it's fun, it's flashy. But we will be definitely be showing some of the other planeswalkers here pretty soon in future streams.
Yeah, and it works out pretty well. We talked about it a little bit. There's a resistance or a vulnerability system in the game. So, certain creatures have a weakness to certain colors based on the color pie for Magic. And so, taking a red class into a green region makes sense, right? So, it's a situation where you will do bonus damage against the creatures of that color. If you're using the proper sorceries against them, it'll tell you, right, when you're looking at the mission that you want to pick, it'll show you which colors this map, the creatures on this map are vulnerable to. So if you really want to min-max, you can make sure that you bring the appropriate dual color deck or even single color deck to that mission. But if you just like, no, I like my deck enough, then you can just roll in here with any color deck you want and choose to not have additional damage.
Awesome. So while we were explaining all of that stuff, we went and did some quests in the overworld, and then now we've entered another ordeal. And
Actually,
this one is...
we've entered a story mission.
Oh, a story mission. Ooh, okay. Yeah, this one's quite a bit different than the ordeal we saw previously, which just had a timer, and we just kind of went around trying to get points and just killing dudes. So this one actually has a lot more of a focus. So you can see I'm hitting these Hedrons, and they're aligning, and they're doing different things for us. So it's not just like kill stuff, they're actual objectives.
Yeah, an ordeal is built around an interesting piece of gameplay that's something that you want to like rack up the score on. Story missions have small mechanics within them, like like turning the Hedron so that way they can take down shields on different artifacts. You can look at them. Feels more like you're going on a journey. These maps have little story beats. They'll usually have some sort of big encounter at the end, but we'll see. It'll feel very different than just running around one set area as he's progressing through the jungle and potentially making his way down to Call Harbridge as he's kind of discovering the merfolk threat that is coming to Z right now. So it's a different feel. Again, this is fully multiplayer. If you want to play it with 3 players, also has 4 different difficulty modes that can give you much higher challenge or much lower difficulty.
Yeah, that's something we haven't really shown too much about, I think, is the difficulty modes. So while you're going through these, like, this is super early game, guys. This is going to be really easy. It's designed to be that way just so you can sort of experience the story, you can figure out your buttons, get accustomed to it. This is still, like, essentially the tutorialized area. But once you've beaten this, and once you're, like, max level, you can come back to do this on higher difficulty levels with increased rewards.
Yeah, in fact, so we have a normal mode, which is similar to what you're looking at here. Very accessible. Anyone can play it. Any skill level can enjoy it. If you just want to play through and kind of progress. But we also have a mode we call Hard, which is available immediately, right? If you're playing and you're seeing what Jared's doing right now and you're like, boy, he's just kind of rolling through, you can immediately put it on Hard, and it becomes a more different experience for sure. And so what we're doing with the difficulty modes, you're going to get the traditional additional health, additional damage, things like that from enemies. But remember I talked about that affixed enemy, that kind of growing growth work before. Those types of enemies always have a chance to spawn. Right? Maybe one of them will have something called Death Touch, where if that enemy touches one of your summons,